大家好，欢迎大家收看安娜看法节目。加州不仅是创新和创业的中心，也是美国监管最严格的州之一。这里机会很多，但是呢，做生意也有不少的坑。今天我们非常荣幸的邀请到了安娜律师楼的霍华德·科恩律师 Howard Cohn， 他有非常丰富的商业法、民事诉讼和刑事辩护的经验。今天呢，他会和我们大家聊一聊在加州经商需要避开的陷阱。Hi, Howard. It's great to have you with us today. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Great to meet you.
好，那我的第一个问题想要请问律师的就是您觉得加州对于企业主来讲最大的挑战到底是什么呢？ Howard, my first question is, with your experience in business law, what do you think is the biggest challenge for business owners in California?
The labor market. By far the number one problem for business. We are a very employee-friendly state, which means the government goes out of its way to protect the employee, and oftentimes at the expense of the employer. We have a very large employee market here, so there's a lot of employees that are looking for work, a lot of immigrants looking for work. Many of them are illegal immigrants looking for work. Employers have to be very careful to make sure that they are employing only legal labor and that they're paying them on the books and that they're paying them in accordance with the law. We have found that between employee theft and lawsuits from employees, that is the number one reason why small businesses fail in California.
好，非常感谢霍华德律师我想问的第二个问题就是，加州的劳动法是出了名的复杂的，我想这一点在加州开公司的老板肯定是深有体会的那么说，企业在管理员工的时候最容易踩的坑到底是什么呢？ California's labor law are very complicated, so what are some of the most common mistakes employers make when managing their employees, Howard?
Okay, well, the number one mistake is paying them off the books, so paying them in cash. A lot of employees, because they're illegal or just want to keep the money, want to get paid in cash, and so they're encouraging the employers to pay them in cash. And that seems good for the employer because they can pay less expenses and they can just pay the employee a little bit less money, not have to worry about paying the taxes to the government. But if anything ever goes wrong with this employee, they will always turn on the employer, and then they get reported to the government, and it's all on the employer's back. The government tends to go after the employer for these errors, not the employee. And one of the big problems is when employers are trying to find more manual labor, the employees insist on getting paid in cash. And if they don't get paid in cash, they won't work for you. And so you want to pay them legally, but you can't find a labor force to hire. And so you have all these other people that only want to get paid in cash. So you figure, okay, I'll pay them in cash, even if you're paying them a prevailing wage. Well, they get that money, the government finds out, and the fines and penalties are oftentimes big enough to totally destroy a business. So that is the number one problem. The number two problem with employees is the classification of them as an independent contractor or an employee. A lot of times the businesses want to classify their laborer as a independent contractor and not an employee, so they don't have to take out all the different wages that need, all the different burdens that need to be taken out for Social Security and state disability insurance and employer tax and employee tax that have to go to the government. That doesn't have to be taken out if you're an independent contractor. And so many employers just say, okay, I'm going to make you an independent contractor and not an employee. Well, our government really tries to classify people as employees And so if it comes in front of the government, chances are they're going to classify this person as an employee if they are an employee. And then you're going to get hit with all those back penalties and interest and money that you didn't take out. And again, that is enough to break a business. So that is probably the number 2 thing. The number 3 thing is just controlling the employees, because employee theft is huge. The penalties for the employees in California tend not to be that severe. And so employees taking your money, well, for every dollar an employee takes out of the till, so to speak, you have to earn $10 to $15 to make up for that $1. And that's very hard on a small business.
好，非常感谢律师的介绍啊。其实有很多企业主啊，在遵守加州法规这一块啊，经常遇到难题。想请问一下律师，有没有哪些具体的规定或者是要求是大家经常忽略的呢？Labor laws are not the only tricky area. Compliance with other regulations is also a very big issue. Many business owners struggle with following California's rules. Are there any specific regulations that people always overlook?
Well, it depends on the business. Many businesses are regulated by the government. You have to make sure that you have all the proper business licenses. In our firm, we handle a lot of small businesses, many of which have specific licenses. Restaurants have to have certain licenses. Massage parlors have to have certain licenses. These kind of different things. You have to make sure you comply with the license procedure, because one of the worst things that can happen is you enter into a lease for a building or a space to conduct your business. You don't have the proper licenses, and then after you're open for a while, the government shuts you down. Well, if you get shut down because you're not properly licensed, your obligations don't go away. Your income goes away because now you can't do business and collect money, but your rent's going to still be there, and possibly all the other expenses that aren't income related are still going to be there. And again, that's enough to break a business. So making sure you comply with all the licensure requirements of the state is the most important thing. Then how you formulate your business and make sure that you comply with the government in the formation of the business. Company can operate a business a number of different ways. They can be a corporation, they can be a limited liability company, they can be a partnership, they can be a sole proprietor. And how you do that and set that up sets the tone on how you're going to get along with the government during the operation of your business.
合同是所有商业合作的基础啊，所以我还想请问一下律师，企业主在签合同前最应该注意哪些关键点呢？Speaking of key elements in business operations, let's talk about contracts. Contracts are a big part of business. What should business owners always check before signing?
Well, you want to make sure that you have a legal professional review your contracts. It depends on the kind of contract you're going to have. Let's start out with the first one. That's going to be your lease. A lease is a contract, and that's going to be with the landlord that you're going to generally have your operation. If you're a logistics company, you're going to probably lease a warehouse. If you're a restaurant, you're going to lease a little standalone building, or you're going to lease a space in a shopping center. And they're going to give you a lease, and that is going to be a fixed expense that you're going to have for a long period of time. And if you don't negotiate that lease right, it can give you such a fixed overhead that you can never make the right amount of money to overcome the fixed expenses that you have. So that would probably be the number one. Then it depends on the kind of contract that you're going to have. Are you talking about a contract with your employees? You want to make sure you have an employment agreement with your employees that says that they're going to be an at-will employee and not an employee for term. If it's going to be with people that you're going to sell products to, you're going to want to make sure that you have different disclaimers in those products and specifically set forth what your warranties are with the product that you're selling, or if you're buying something, what warranties you get. Because once you sell a product, obviously as a seller, you want to limit your liability, and as a buyer, you want to have as many protections as possible. So the kind of things that you're going to want to take a look at from a contract standpoint differ depending upon whether you're a buyer or a seller. And here at the Demetric Law Firm, we represent both. We actually represent both pretty equally. We have a lot of logistics companies in our business that we help negotiate the contracts with their various vendors and suppliers. And so with the same company, we deal with both the buying side and the selling side.
好，非常感谢 Howard 律师啊。接下来这个问题想请问的是，能不能为大家举个例子啊？哪个企业主成功应对了加州的法律难题的呢？其他人可以从这个案例当中学到什么呢？Now I would like to hear about a real-life example that our viewers can learn from. Howard, could you please share a story about a business owner who handled a legal challenge well and what others can learn from it?
Well, I want to take it a different way. It's because it's frankly boring. The whole idea, if you do everything right, you don't hear from them because everything's going right. They don't have any problems. They've been set up right, and they go on with their business, and their contact with us is very minimal. Where we get involved is when people mess up. And I can explain to you a very dear example of a good, hardworking family. They owned a smorgasbord, which is a buffet, a Chinese buffet, and they hired some illegal immigrants to work at the shop. Now, these people, one person worked there, was making good money, was very happy, and told some of his friends in Mexico that this is a great place to work. These people take care of you, come on over. And so more laborers would come to this place. They paid them a fair wage. They even had a house where they could stay. They didn't have to stay there, but they were welcome to stay there to help save money. And these people just want to earn as much money. They're hard workers. They just wanted to earn as much money as possible to bring money back to Mexico to help feed their families in Mexico. And so all the motives were good. The problem was these workers were illegal. Well, they got arrested, and they turned on the owner of the business to say, well, this is where we worked and this is how we got paid, because they didn't want to get in trouble for being in America illegally. And the government gives them a big break and lets them go, and then comes down on the business. The business was operating for several years, was making good money, but not, a living. A whole family was making a living, brothers and sisters, a mother, and actually a couple of children. Everybody was working in the business, and it was feeding a lot of different parts of the family. And when the government came in, they basically shut down the family. Since all the money they were earning was considered money from an illegal activity, they went and attached all their different bank accounts and totally destroyed this family. And they were facing lots of years in jail. Well, we were able to help them, save them some of their money, keep them out of jail, but it shut down their business, which was their livelihood. And it's just a shame. And they had the right motives. They weren't really trying to be crooked. They were trying to pay a fair wage. And it's just they didn't have their businesses set up properly. And so a good business that was serving the community is no longer serving the community. The illegal people that were doing the work there now don't have that work. And a family that was earning a living for several generations of that family no longer had that income stream. just because they didn't set up a business properly. I think that is a better example for people to learn by.
好，今天非常感谢 Howard 给大家分享了那么多实用的建议啊。在节目结束之前，我还想请问一下律师啊，能不能给大家支一个招，让大家防患于未然，避开那些烧钱的坑呢？Thanks so much, Howard, for sharing all this great advice. It's very insightful for anyone running a business in California. Before we wrap up, do you have one last tip for business owners on how to stay prepared and avoid potential pitfalls?
Yes, set up your business right to begin with. Whether you come to the Demichuk law firm or some other law firm, get your business formation done properly, be it a corporation, an LLC, a sole proprietorship, or a partnership. Get the proper documentations done. Get the proper licenses. We can help you with the licenses. When you go to negotiate the lease, have someone by your side to help you negotiate your lease. And it's not going to be the broker that found you the property. Brokers are really good to help you find a property. But once you find a property, they just want you to sign because now they're going to get their commission. So their commission is going to be based upon you signing that lease. And so now they're not necessarily going to be thinking of all the protections that you need. They just want to make sure the deal gets done because that's how they get paid. So this is something our firm can help you with, the formation of the company, and then having the proper documents in running the company, which would be your employee agreements and your employee handbook. And that'll help keep you out of trouble with the labor market.
好，今天非常感谢安娜律师楼的霍华德律师为我们大家深入的解读在加州经营企业如何避坑的话题啊。再次感谢律师，也感谢大家的收看。Thanks again to Howard, and thank you all for watching. See you next time.